Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey at the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China. Today, I'm going to answer a question a lot of you have posed to me the last couple of days, which is what do I think of the fight between Conor McGregor and Khabib in this last UFC event? To which I will ask you the question, which one are we talking about? So there were two, that one that we all paid for to watch one-on-one, and then the extra fight we got for free afterward. Let's talk about that first one. I was surprised, like a lot of people were. Going into that fight, I would have given Khabib probably a 55% chance of winning, probably in the second round via TKO. That's what I was thinking. I felt Conor McGregor... I think Khabib had a difficult last name to pronounce, but couldn't say McGregor. Conor McGregor. Say that 10 times fast, it's like a tongue twister. Anyway, I felt he had a significant chance of winning in the first round via knockout, as he has demonstrated many times before. But after watching the fight, I feel that Khabib stood perhaps a 100% chance of winning that fight any way he wanted to. Stand up, on the ground, whatever. Just an absolutely dominant performance. It was interesting to see what happened when Conor fought up a weight class again. So we have to remember this was not in his usual weight class. In the teeny tiny division, Conor McGregor is a big guy. Compared to Khabib, not so much. And that makes a big difference. Man, so many people will say size and strength don't matter in a fight. If there is a huge technique disparity, well, that can compensate for size and strength. But if there is not, size and strength matter a great deal. Even if there is a technique disparity, if there is enough difference between size and strength, that size and strength matters a great deal in a fight. That is why we have weight classes, after all. So, man, I was really impressed with Khabib's performance. I mean, I usually am. He's a fantastic wrestler, but he showed us all that, yeah, he's a pretty decent striker as well. He's got a very good judgment of distance, much better than most of us gave him credit for, myself included. Some people were a little confused about the submission that he put on at the end, and I've got some questions about that. Like, that's not how you do a rear naked choke. Conor had his chin tucked. Yeah, he did have his chin tucked. Here's the thing. You can choke the chin. You can put your forearm on it. You can put the crook of your elbow on it. Now, Khabib used a gable grip, did a rear choke as opposed to the full rear naked choke, but he also turned that into a jaw crank and a neck crank. When you choke the chin, you're pulling the jaw back into the brain, back into the neck, so you can break this, you can choke this, and you can crank the neck at the same time if you twist and drive the head forward. So, fantastic submission. It's not something you'll see a lot in jiu-jitsu, simply because in jiu-jitsu tournaments, that stuff is illegal, to crank the neck and crank the jaw. There's this weird custom, this weird culture in Brazilian jiu-jitsu that somehow neck cranks are not real submissions because they're illegal in sport tournaments. Which I think is really dangerous thinking, because a lot of the jiu-jitsu gyms that I've gone to, when people get caught in a neck crank or their opponent, their training partner is attempting a choke, but the neck is in a bad position and it feels like more of a neck crank than a choke. Afterward, they'll get up and they'll tap, or they won't tap, but afterwards they'll complain and say, oh, that was more of a neck crank than a choke. So you didn't really get me. You didn't really win. And that's garbage. It's absolute garbage. It's dangerous. Here's the thing. Neck cranks can kill you. Neck cranks can straight up kill you, man. So get your tapping hand ready. If you feel it's more of a neck crank, tap out. You don't want neck and spine surgery, guys. You don't want herniated discs. So if you feel that pressure on the neck and spine, tap out. I don't care if it's not a clean choke. Tap out. I don't care if it's illegal in competition. Tap out. Save your body the wear and tear. And if it was more of a neck crank than a choke, learn your lesson and stop getting caught in neck cranks. So, the fight after the fight. Man, that was shocking. That was surprising. I felt my heart kind of sink, like, oh. I was really excited for Khabib, as a lot of us were, like, oh, yay, good job, man. It seemed like the underdog pulled it off. Now, really, Khabib wasn't the underdog going into that fight, but with all the build-up, all the posturing, it seemed as if he was. The way Conor McGregor talks, like he's the king of the world, like he's untouchable. Makes him seem like anybody he's facing is the underdog. So anybody who beats him immediately seems like, bravo, underdog, good job. I can now relate to you. You're the everyman. And immediately all of that was flushed down the toilet. Gone. Whoa. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull my ninja disappearing trick on you there. Oh yeah, where was I? So, my heart sank. And, it seemed like, man, he just threw it all away. He was the face of the UFC for 2 seconds, and then boom, heel face turn. It's an old wrestling term. Back in the 1930s, a man named Gorgeous George became the first heel in pro wrestling. He had this idea, if I put on a character, not unlike what Conor McGregor does, putting on a character that people love to hate, then people will buy the tickets to go see the fight. People will watch. They'll tune on television. That's why people started buying televisions originally, to watch professional wrestling, to watch Gorgeous George, because he was that heel that people loved or loved to hate. And a heel face turn is where you go from being the bad guy, the heel everybody loves to hate, to being the sympathetic character. And in 2 seconds, that's what happened. McGregor went from being the heel to that heel face turn, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's being attacked. He's not really the bad guy. He's got our sympathy. Well, for some of us anyway. But man, Khabib, what happened? I don't know. I've heard some stories. I've heard people said mean, angry things. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. As the old childhood saying goes. But words can hurt, man. We're talking about guys who have an extremely high tolerance for pain, who are willing to get in a cage and fight for 25 minutes straight. They are willing to take some serious lumps, risk life itself to fight and damage another human being and have damage inflicted upon them physically. And afterward, these men will shake each other's hand, congratulate each other, embrace, hug, and smile. But not this time. Why? Because it was not a fight with simply sticks and stones, striking and grappling, but instead a fight of words, a war of words. As far as I understand it, Conor comes from a culture where it's fairly normal to banter back and forth. And I don't think Khabib shares that culture. He comes from a fighting culture where infuriating your enemy is acceptable and even advantageous. Miyamoto Musashi did the same thing. He would show up late to his duels to anger his opponent, so they would fight angry, because anger gets you into a fight, it doesn't get you out. Anger gets you into trouble. Man, Jack Dempsey wrote about that. And for all of those asking if I'm going to continue reading Jack Dempsey's book as an audiobook and illustrating it visually on YouTube, yes, I absolutely am. I'm going to do the whole thing. Oh man, I gotta stop doing that, guys. Here's the thing. Unsportsmanlike behavior is illegal in a context of mixed martial arts. You can't do that in a fight in the UFC. Under unified rules, it is a foul. Just like biting or eye gouging or kicking the groin is a foul. Unsportsmanlike conduct inside the cage during the bout is a foul. It's illegal. So why is it that unsportsmanlike conduct outside of the fight, during the press conferences, during the weigh-ins, from the cornermen, from the people outside watching, why is that tolerated? Why is that celebrated? Why is that rewarded? Simply because it's not illegal under the law? Now, I'm not calling for anyone to revoke the First Amendment, the freedom of speech in the United States of America. I don't live in the United States of America. I live in the People's Republic of China. Rights and liberties are a little different here. But I'm an American, and I believe in the importance of the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. That people should have the freedom to voice their opinions and their words as they see fit, even if they are not popular, especially if they are not popular, and the government should not have power to shut them down. But here's the thing. I think people should learn responsibility for their words and their actions as well. That along with that power, that right, comes a responsibility. Yeah, it kind of sounds like Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. Smart guy. With great power comes great responsibility. And I'm looking at Dana White right now, the president of the UFC. Now, it is not his fault that Khabib jumped over the cage. It is not his fault that Conor McGregor said mean, angry things, but he tolerated it. And he celebrated it. I believe Khabib got a ceremonial slap on the wrist of a 10-day suspension for that whole hullabaloo afterward. And I think Conor McGregor got some ceremonial slap on the wrist as well. From what I've heard, I don't know. But unsportsmanlike conduct has been tolerated and celebrated by the powers that be, the people who run the UFC, because it has made them money, because it has proven to be profitable, and I'm not happy about that. Anything that pushes the sport in a positive direction, that's great. But if you're pushing the sport downhill for profit, if you're turning it into something other than a sport, not so much. Not a big fan of that. There are a lot of people who come on my channel for the first time and they see me talk about mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu or boxing or whatever. And in a snarky tone, they'll say, oh, you don't know the difference between a fight and a sport, because what you do is a sport, and what I do in my reality-based self-defense system is real. And, okay. I get these every single day. And they're amazing, and they make me chuckle every time. But let's put the sportsmanship back in the sport. Because I do know the difference between a fight and a combat sport. And I appreciate the difference between a fight, a street fight, a scrap, what we saw after, outside of the cage and inside, where everybody was scrapping and acting like animals, and what goes on inside the cage, what is sanctioned, what we actually tune in to watch and see. I don't care about the hullabaloo before or after the fight. I don't care about the drama. I know a lot of people do. I know that's profitable. I know a lot of people tune in to see that. They say, oh yeah, I love watching fights. And they don't care about the fights. They don't understand them. They don't appreciate them. They like the drama. They like the feelings that they experience. They like the feeling of empowerment. But as a fighter myself, as a coach myself, as somebody who lives the martial way, if you will, I appreciate seeing martial artists at the highest level compete in a sport. And I think that's awesome. And that's what I tune in to see. So, man, would we tolerate, well, I don't know, Conor McGregor walking up and groin kicking Khabib at the press conference? No, we wouldn't, because that would be assault. There would be legal penalties. Would we tolerate him saying mean, angry words that make people upset? Well, it's his First Amendment right to say what he wants, but that doesn't mean we have to give him the microphone and we have to put a camera on him. Because nobody has the right to an audience. You have the right to say and think what you want, but you don't have a right to an audience. That, you got to earn that. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.